War. War never changes.
Whew. Welcome back to a very special Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are going back to my favorite series of all time, Fallout. So today, ladies and gentlemen, if you pre-ordered the early access premium edition, you got money to blow, you got Starfield today. Bethesda Game Studios, for those who don't know, is my all-time favorite developer next to BioWare. Whether it be Fallout or Elder Scrolls, anything this team puts out is gold. Now, I just did my preview impressions over on my Mr. Matty Plays channel for Starfield, and what I wanted to do to celebrate the launch of a brand new IP, the first one from Bethesda Game Studios in 25 years, was to go through their entire catalog and remember the series that they own today. Those being Fallout, which included many developers like Interplay and Obsidian, along with Bethesda Game Studios, and also we're going to talk about next, Elder Scrolls. I know, I figured I could pull the trigger on that video too, since it'll be like another 10 years before we get the next Elder Scrolls game. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm here today at all is because of Fallout. I've loved this series for so long, and I cannot wait to talk more Fallout, probably next year with the TV show. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into nostalgic and retrospective content, you're in the right place. Maybe consider dropping a nuke on that like button, and with that, let's begin with Fallout 1 and 2. All right, raise your hand if you played Fallout 3 as your first Fallout game, and you thought for some reason 3 was the first game, and when you looked up 1 and 2 because you were a high schooler and you knew nothing better, you saw 1 and 2 and thought, oh, that must be like something different because there's no way that's what Fallout is, because it's very much this first-person shooting open-world RPG, right? Yeah, that was me. Okay, I'm glad you could all relate to that. So Fallout 1 and 2 I was extremely late for. When Fallout 4 was announced, the hype was unlike anything else. So much so that even though I was a Bethesda Game Studios born and bred Fallout fan, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's see what these isometric RPGs are all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I have almost never been more wrong in my entire life when I played these games. Fallout 1 puts you in the shoes of the Vault 13 dweller, and you're going out into the wastes to find a water chip to help ensure the survival of your vault. Now, what's really cool about this game, and every Fallout game really, is there's a different flavor to each of them. They're all dramatically different, and this video will highlight that. Fallout 1 is a game where you are on a timer, and I think age hasn't been as kind to this one, but I like the mechanic. I like that it feels like there's a sense of urgency, and I know Fallout purists out there will say this, and it's kind of true. Once you start learning the game more and more, you have more time than you could ever imagine. Now, given that Fallout 1 was an isometric RPG, what was really fascinating going back to this game as someone who started off with the Bethesda Game Studios titles was seeing how all the things that had changed going into 3D originally were with Interplay's vision for Fallout in the isometric point of view. I'm talking about VATS, I'm talking navigating your inventory, talking to NPCs and the like. What was that all about? And what's more fascinating about going back to Fallout nowadays is that this was considered a risky series back then, right? It's the spin-off of Wasteland, and it's this series that's trying to scratch and claw its way to relevancy with a certain beat-em-up game even that we'll talk about later, really trying to make it somewhat popular, but it actually ended up being the game that almost sunk Interplay, but yet I feel brought Bethesda to all new heights. So Fallout 1 is a game that, while it's honestly probably one of my least favorites, not because it's bad, it's one that I appreciate so much because it's all where it started. From the lore to the storytelling, the very dreary music, Fallout 1 and 2 are very haunting experiences. Well, maybe not Fallout 2, because they have moments like this.
Yeah, you know how unhappy he gets when people complain. He takes it personal, like it's a loyalty thing. Maybe that just goes with being the President of the United States, or what's left of him. The President of the United fucking States of America. Who do you think I was talking about? The fuck? Who is it? What? I should kick your fucking ass. Who is this?
Fallout 2 has to be the most fourth wall breaking, out of pocket video game I have ever played. And I loved every second of it. While Fallout 2 has some of the craziest choices you can make, like going to New Reno and becoming a porn star, all the way to, yes, prank calling the Enclave, it still manages to be so gripping. And I think it's because of that soundtrack again. While it's haunting at times, there are moments like when you're in MODOK and it's just peaceful, serene even. And that's what Fallout is to me in some way. When you mix the music, whether it be the ambient music from Fallout 1 and 2 or the much more popular 50s soundtrack from Fallout 3 and New Vegas and Fallout 4, with the very dreadful situation you're in, it's a vibe unlike anything else. There's no game series that's like Fallout. No one comes close to Fallout. But I think Fallout 2 really just captures how flexible the tone of this series can be. It captures the dark humor beautifully, where you even, again, had those fourth wall breaking moments, like you could find the graves of the various game developers that worked on the game in there, and they were doing self-inserts. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how many ways you can play this game. And when you remove that timer, a lot of people viewed that as a major improvement for Fallout 2. Guilty as charged. I thought it was a really good choice because the combat in these games I know Fallout purists, I've been in this community for so long, I know they're not gonna wanna hear this, but I feel like if you took the Wasteland 3 engine, right, and you slapped Fallout 1 and 2 in there, you'd have one of the best, if not the best, role-playing experience imaginable. But I think that some of the gameplay holds back 1 and 2. With the pointing and clicking, moving in turns, it's a little stop and go traffic-y is how I describe it. That doesn't make it bad. There is a satisfaction in the older Fallout games of ammo being a very precious resource that you need to hoard, and when you use it on an enemy, you gotta think about it big time. There is something there that makes it tick. There is that great feeling of finding a Deathclaw. I know that's not the great feeling, but actually conquering it, whereas you have moments in even New Vegas where you'll run into 1,000,001 Deathclaws, right? I love that Fallout 2 has a legitimate challenge to it, and that challenge sort of plays into the economy of the game. At least that's how I look at it. But Fallout 1 and 2, while they may not be the most popular, they are special video games that are just consistently overlooked. And I think more people would appreciate them if Bethesda, if Xbox now just woke up and said, you know what, like what if we brought these back in a little package, like the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 Enhanced Edition, although doing it better, and put them on consoles, just let people experience it, right? I feel like you're gonna hear me say this a lot this video. But enough dilly-dallying, let's take a look at a very unique, if you will, complete in-box experience for Fallout 1 and 2. Fallout 1 and 2, we don't really have the PC version, but how about a nuke, right? How about a nuke? This is the Fallout Anthology, and it's one of the coolest things ever. You'll see the top actually removes. Actually, before I even do all of that, take a listen to this here. Oh no! Did the audio on it break? Hold on. It's usually supposed to make a big boom sound. Hold on, one more time. That's so disappointing. Anyway, for the complete in-box experience, if you will, for Fallout Anthology, this one right here, if you remove the top, you'll see comes with all the Fallout games. 1, 2, Tactics, 3, Game of the Year Edition, New Vegas Ultimate Edition, and Fallout 4. Now you'll see here for Fallout 1 and 2, what we'll be specifically taking a look at is that it has a little bit of a breakdown for each with its cover art, which I thought was really cool. Here it says, enter the wasteland. After 80 years of idyllic vault life, Vault 13's vital water chip has malfunctioned. You are chosen by the Overseer to venture out into the wasteland and save your fellow vault dwellers, seek out a new microchip, and return before the water supply runs out. And you can see all of these do come with the disc itself, which is pretty cool. I actually never had a chance to try to use these because I've never had a computer since like the 90s probably that had a CD drive. But Fallout 2 is much of the same. You'll see here the Enclave soldier on the front, which the intro for Fallout 2 is so messed up. Like you see them approach a vault like, oh, they're gonna help them, right? And they just mow them down. Like it really depicts them as some of the worst scum in the wasteland. But here on the inside, it says, find the Garden of Eden. It's been many years since your ancestors trod across the wastelands. As you search for the Garden of Eden creation kit to save your primitive village, your path is strewn with crippling radiation, megalomaniac mutants, and a relentless stream of lies, deceit, and treachery. You begin to wonder if anyone really stands to gain anything from this brave new world. And here again, I'll show off the disc, which beautiful, beautiful artwork here. So it's not exactly Fallout 1 and 2 complete, if you will, but it's a pretty dope way to show off Fallout 1 and 2, in my opinion. Do you like Kill Switch Engage? What about maybe Slipknot? Well, guess what? They did the instrumentals for this game, and you might kind of like Fallout Brotherhood of Steel as this guilty pleasure, as it was Interplay's last-ditch effort to bring some relevancy to the Fallout franchise before they sold off the IP to Bethesda. Now, this game may look a little familiar to you in its style, overhead, action RPG. For those of you who are like me and started a lot of your gaming career in the late 90s, early 2000s, you might say, well, I didn't play Diablo, but that kind of looks like... That's right. Another very particular Interplay series. You see, Interplay was behind Dark Alliance 1 and 2, and they took that style and brought it to the Fallout series. Now, while Fallout fans across the globe may be just kind of cleaning up the vomit that just came up in their mouth, it's actually kind of a guilty pleasure Fallout game and highlights what I said before. Every single one of these games is different, either tonally or gameplay style, and that's what makes this series special. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna try to sell you high on Brotherhood of Steel here. It's not the best Fallout game, but you get to play as a ghoul, and there's some pretty raunchy dialogue and hilarious choices.
So, partner, for every red scorpion tail you bring me, I'll pay you a few caps.
I don't know, I think it's strictly because I grew up with these two games, Champions Return to Arms as well, Champions of Norath, like, those are my action RPGs. So in my young adult life, to find, oh my god, there's a Fallout game that's just like these things I grew up playing so much, it felt like it was meant to be. So while it was a really sad swan song for Fallout with Interplay, it led to what I think were much greener pastures, but we'll get to that after we take a look at what's on the inside of this box right here, which, by the way, not a cheap box. All right, now we have a copy here of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel on the original Xbox. It's the most not Fallout looking game ever. And I think that was exactly the point. The back of the box says, "Welcome to the Wasteland, where humanity struggles to pick up the pieces after a devastating nuclear war. As a courageous member of the Brotherhood of Steel, your mission is to bring peace to the post-apocalyptic world filled with relentless chaos and radioactive nightmares. Over-the-top third-person action set in a grim post-apocalyptic universe, outrageous arsenal of weapons, including homemade plasma rifles, cleavers, and fragmentation grenades. Choose from 3 unique and customizable playable characters, auto-targeting ability to cycle quickly through enemies like rats, roaches, and rad scorpions, and single or multiplayer cooperative play," which was definitely a plus for this type of game. Now you'll see here, pretty thick manual and not too bad on the illustration front. I actually like this art here. And it goes through the vaults, what they are, the FEV, the Brotherhood. It's a whole entire deep dive on the lore. They break down the initiates, who they are, who these characters are. They go through their backgrounds, Nadia, Kane. These are the characters that you can play as to start the game. So I call these in the car reads on the way home. They break down simple things like, of course, the options menu, stuff that you've seen before, the inventory menu screen, what all of these various skills do and what they mean for when you level up. There are Cyrus-specific skills, Nadia-specific skills, so there are, I wouldn't say builds, but there are ways to play the game that change per character, which was kind of what you see in the Dark Alliance games. You're going to see here all the different weapons that you'd find in the waste, certainly a small peek into what you'd find in Fallout 1 and 2. They say, remember, duck and cover here. I think that was really cool. Just a little throwback to nuclear warfare. Friends and foes, shout out to Ruby. She's so like deadpan in her delivery of lines, and it's hilarious, man. So this is definitely one of the more, I can approve the illustrations, if you will, within this black and white manual. They break down some of the creatures, or critters rather, that you're going to see. Brahmin, rad scorpions, death claws, of course, very terrifying. And then you get towards the back of the manual here where they're promoting the strategy guide, an interplay registry, and that is really it for a complete in-box copy of Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Definitely one of the lesser known Fallout games. But now it's time. The era of Bethesda games that, well, there was Fallout Tactics. Right. The era of Bethesda Game Studios begins. You know, when Bethesda first bought the Fallout IP, oh, the internet was on fire. They're like, no, dude, not them. The Oblivion guys, the Morrowind guys, them? You're gonna give them Fallout? In fact, there's a cool story about how Bethesda Game Studios got Fallout. Todd Howard said there were a couple IP he wanted. Fallout was at the top of the list. The way he found out about it was a little post-it note on his desk that said, Fallout's yours. That was it. That was the start of Fallout with Bethesda Game Studios. And we got what I think is truly one of the best games of all time. For me, Fallout 3 is a top 3 gaming experience, bar none. That's because of its tone, its atmosphere, its hilarious morality, its evolution of systems that were introduced in Fallout 1 and 2 and brought to a mainstream audience with, I think, not sacrificing the core DNA of the series. It's highly replayable. I know it's not New Vegas, but it's highly replayable. It's just got something to it with that music and that dreadful world. And at the same time, it introduced one of my favorite Fallout-specific mechanics, if you will, which is, I wonder what that destroyed building is like in the Fallout universe. Whenever I'm walking around the city, funny enough, I go to Boston every year for PAX East, and before Fallout 4 was a thing, I was thinking, man, imagine a Fallout game set here. Like, that's what these games do to me. I can't just live in the real world. I'm like, what if this place was completely nuked? What would that be like? Would a Raider Fortress be here? And that's what Fallout 3 does. But for me, it's funny because I hated the game at first when I played it in high school. I borrowed it from a buddy. I tried it out. I was like, nah, you can have it back. And then I tried it again in 2009 with the Game of the Year edition. It's the one game I bend the knee to for the Game of the Year edition. All DLC on disc. It comes with the map. You'll see. It comes with a lot of good stuff. But point being, it's there, and then I fell in love. Why that is simply because of that step out moment. It's there that you feel the greatness of Bethesda Game Studios starting to seep in. You step out and you can go to the Springvale Elementary School. You can go to Megaton, a city built with plane parts surrounding an atomic bomb. Or you see in the distance that Washington Monument, you can go out there too. It's that feeling of true control and agency over your experience and exploration, and that feeling of wandering the wastes, seeing something in the distance and going, hey, what's that? And it leading you down an insane rabbit hole. Whether it be the Dunwich building, where it's a horror story within the Fallout universe as you're stalked by ghouls, or something much more hilarious and I'd say infamous, like blowing up Megaton in a side quest. You can just wipe an entire town off the map, just like that, the starter town, no problem whatsoever, just bang, see you later in a side quest. And it changes how the main story quest interacts with you. Your dad will know a thing or two about that. And it features my all-time favorite quest in gaming, Tranquility Lane. I love the music here, the vibe here. This is, again, going back to Fallout 2, that tonal whiplash. You're in this very believable situation, right? The world has been destroyed by nuclear warfare because of the greed of countries, right? It just kept mounting and mounting through the resource wars, and enough was enough. Nukes went flying, and humanity had to pay the ultimate price because war never changes. You juxtapose that with 50s music that's very much Americana themed, and you sideline that with propaganda all over the place of you can do it type energy, and there's no game visually, audibly, exploration-wise, gameplay-wise like Fallout. From the way they transform VATS into a great first-person shooting mechanic where people who weren't great at first-person shooting games could get into FPS games, all the way down to just the morality of the game. Is it something like New Vegas? We'll talk about that in a moment. No, but to me, Fallout 3's atmosphere is the bee's knees, and I can never get enough of it. And I think you get more of that in something like Point Lookout, which just feels like more Fallout 3. It's incredible. Or you get crazy stuff, not my favorite DLC, but you get crazy stuff like Mothership Zeta. You get darker things like The Pit, which then Fallout 76 tried to go back to. And yeah, we're not talking about 76 in this video, by the way. I'm not going to allow it. We're not doing that. Anyway, let's take a look at what's on the inside of a complete box copy of Fallout 3 and then move on to what is the community favorite, New Vegas. All right, my favorite Fallout 3. This is a GameStop exclusive, and it includes all of the expansions. This is why you get the Game of the Year edition. The back of the box says, prepare for the future with Fallout 3 Game of the Year edition. Experience the most acclaimed game of 2008 like never before. Create a character of your choosing and descend into an awe-inspiring post-apocalyptic world where every minute is a fight for survival. Fallout 3 Game of the Year edition includes all 5 Fallout 3 game add-on packs, being Operation Anchorage, The Pit, Broken Steel, The Point Lookout DLC, and Mothership Zeta. The power of choice. It says here, are you good or evil? Talk with your problems or just flash your plasma rifle? Blast them away with VATS. Rain death and destruction with all new cinematic combat presentation and limitless freedom. It says here, visit towns, battle through DC, or explore the wasteland in first or third person. A lot of people call this game just Oblivion with guns, and honestly, it's fine with me. That sounds amazing to me, but it's much more than that. Now you'll see here there's already a disc in the console. That would be the primary game disc. This is disc 2, which had the DLC on it. Normally there would be a poster. Now if you pay attention to the vlog, you may notice there's a little poster behind me, behind the TMNT arcade cabinet. That's where it is. But here you have the Vault Dweller Survival Guide, which what a guide it is, man. That's great stuff. And then a promotion for one of my favorite games ever, The First Dishonored. Absolutely love this series. And then Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition, another favorite game of all time. This is just an unmatched era for Bethesda at this point, but that is a complete in-box copy of Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition. I was there. I don't want to hear it. I was there, okay? I remember when Fallout New Vegas first came out in high school. It's just Fallout 3 2.0, not that crazy about it. I don't want to hear it. The original reception to this game was, okay, cool, more Fallout. But time did its thing. Once Fallout 4 came around, there was a community epiphany where they all went, oh, wait, we want more of this. Fallout New Vegas is timeless, strictly because not only is it arguably the perfect sequel that takes everything Fallout 3 built from scratch and innovates upon it, but it also manages to provide some of the most diverse choice and consequence in a RPG that we've seen in the modern day of gaming yet. And no company has, in my opinion, really replicated that. What New Vegas did with its branching main quest line, with its branching side quest lines and amount of skill checks to boot. See, this is the purest Fallout game in the modern age. If you want to get an understanding of Fallout 1 and 2 without really playing them and what made them special, but you want the modern Fallout experience, you go to New Vegas. Heck, New Vegas even uses the ambient music that you'll find in Fallout 1 and 2 in many of its locations, which, again, going to the West Coast once more, makes sense. You're back in the Mojave and things are a little familiar. You can find the Highwayman's vehicle, which is something you're going to drive around in Fallout 2. So there's a lot of callbacks to the original Fallout games here, and that makes them more and more special as time goes on. And you also have something special in the fact that this is where Bethesda was, willing to part ways with the Fallout IP and do something pretty cool by giving it to, you guessed it, Obsidian Entertainment, who was full of former Interplay staff that could take the ball and run with it and make something really special. You had original writers like Chris Avlone on the team, and you could feel that all over New Vegas. I think the characterization is what won me over with Fallout New Vegas, because at first I also didn't like this one either. For a long time I didn't. It was the characters, which we'll talk about, but really it was that hardcore mode. You see, New Vegas boasts a hardcore mode that I believe gives every location purpose. There's one spot I always joke about in Fallout New Vegas, Raoul's Shack. When you show up to Raoul's Shack, there's really no story here. It's just a hut that exists. Okay, what's the big deal here? Like, why does this exist? And if you're playing without hardcore mode, you're like, all right, moving on. And there's a lot of spots that are like Raoul's Shack in New Vegas, which I felt in those initial playthroughs and replaythroughs that the map was underwhelming. But then in 2014, I gave it the old college try. Let's see what this hardcore mode's all about. And when you start to find Raoul's Shacks full of food, full of water, ammo casing, beds to sleep in, everything gets value, everything gets purpose, and you realize the game was really designed with this mode in mind, and for me, it elevates the game. The factions in this game are phenomenal. While you look at something like Fallout 3, which focused on the Brotherhood of Steel versus the Enclave, the main factions in the Fallout world, and pit them against each other in a sort of heroes versus villains storyline, what Fallout New Vegas manages to do with its various gangs and then layering in the Brotherhood of Steel, who's hiding out in a bunker in the middle of the desert, and then you have the NCR, who's kind of has a lot of control of the Mojave Wasteland, right? They're kind of your police of the region, if you will. Meanwhile, the Legion is led by someone who is having a health condition ongoing, and it leads you to briefly sympathizing with them while in the heart of the beast, in the belly of the beast. There's just so many moments in New Vegas where its characters continue to wow you in the ways you can interact with them, whether it be low intelligence options, which are hilarious, to skillfully navigating and finding unique alternative solutions. New Vegas has an answer for all of your playstyles, and then layers on some incredible DLC. Whether it's the introduction of Joshua Graham, one of the best written characters that you can find in the Fallout universe, all the way to Ulysses in the Lonesome Road DLC, which to me, I remember staying home from school to play that expansion. I was so excited for it. And I remember being sad playing it because that was it. We weren't going to get more Fallout for a while. And my personal favorite, and while it's an uncommon take, Dead Money, completely taking the systems of New Vegas and flipping it on its head, taking your weapons away and putting you in the depths of the Sierra Madre, where everything's trying to kill you and you are the most vulnerable you've been in an entire playthrough, with a beeper on your neck that's about to blow up at any moment. Some people hate it, but for me, I love that it presents a really cool challenge with that atmosphere from Fallout 3 that I knew and loved finding its way in there. You see, New Vegas is a game that, while I adore, I find it visually, without mods, unappealing. It's just brown, brown, brown. You learn to love it through Fallout 1 and 2, but it's not the nicest thing to look at, whereas Fallout 3, while it's green, 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 you kind of balance that out with a lot of landmarks, whereas with New Vegas and it's a lot of desert, it is that mixture of knowing what Fallout 1 and 2 are, what tactics is, and understanding, like, okay, these are the origins of this series, and you appreciate it through that lens. Whereas Fallout 3, to me, the more visually active game, just lights my fire a little bit more. Anyway, we still have the big one to get to, so why don't we crack open a complete in-box copy of Fallout New Vegas and then talk about the Fallout game that really changed it all. All right, here on PlayStation 3, we just have vanilla Fallout New Vegas, not the Ultimate Edition, so this one doesn't come with all of the DLC. It says here, welcome to Vegas, New Vegas. As you battle your way across the heat-blasted Mojave Wastelands to the neon-drenched Vegas Strip, you'll be introduced to a colorful cast of characters, factions, special weapons, mutated creatures, and much more. Choose sides in the upcoming war, declare winner takes all in this follow-up to the 2008 Video Game of the Year, Fallout 3. Feel the heat of New Vegas, experience the great Southwest as only could be imagined in Fallout. Up the ante, new features, weapons, factions, and foes await you in Sin City, and let it ride in a huge open world you can explore, choose sides, or go it alone. Peacemaker or hard case, house rules, or the wild card, it's all how you play the game. Meanwhile, here on the inside, you actually get a pretty beefy manual with New Vegas. You also get a promotion here for the classic pack, which is pretty nice stuff, but this is a respectable manual. I love the kind of weathered corners. It is illustrated, it is colored as well, which is nice. They use gameplay screenshots to break down pretty much everything that you saw throughout Fallout 3, from VATS to, yes, even hardcore mode, combat, and its presentation. You see, New Vegas really didn't add much in the terms of mechanics. They just iterated upon what was there with Fallout 3 in things like the, I'd say, reputation system, kind of expanding on the morality of the game. They expanded on things, actually they talk about reputation right down here, crime and punishment, all that fun stuff. They expanded on the dialogue, just lots and lots of writing, because the game was made in about a year and a half, so they didn't have all the time in the world. But overall, not like a ton of artwork here, just a lot of breakdowns. Caravan needs like 8 million pages, quite frankly. And that is it for a complete in-box copy of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 4, the game where all this gear I've been wearing the whole video came from. The one that changed it all. There is not a more popular Fallout game than this one. There's not a more divisive Fallout game than this one. Fallout 4 sold over 12 million copies in its opening weekend, and it was a game that a lot of people out the gate, myself included, really loved. And to this day, I still love Fallout 4. I owe this game everything. It was the springboard for my career right there next to Skyrim. It was the game that brought me, if you will, into mainstream game coverage where I was able to branch out and do videos like this here on Retro Rebound. It's a game that came at a pivotal time in my life where I was finding myself and what I wanted to do with my living. And I know that's all very existential stuff, but that's what video games do, right? You connect with them on an emotional level. And Fallout 4, for all its flaws, is a special video game to me. Now, don't get it twisted. There are some changes that, as time has gone on, I'm less and less favorable towards, namely the voice protagonist. I can deal with it, but now after playing Starfield's main story and thinking it's as incredible as it is without a voice protagonist, Bethesda, the reason they wanted to add in a voice protagonist was to make a really good story and to make it more emotional, more compelling, but I don't think they really achieved what they did in Starfield here in Fallout 4 at all. They didn't even come close. Now, Fallout 4's story is about finding your missing son with all the twists and turns the Commonwealth throws your way, like synths, which I thought was a really unique premise. Who's human? Who's synthetic? Should we even care if someone is synthetic? Should we treat them differently if they're synthetic? The game, I don't think, pushes it enough, but it's there to the point where, as a theme for the main story, I do appreciate it. I also just think Boston is a great setting for a Fallout game. Whether it be exploring Diamond City, aka Fenway Park, or walking the Freedom Trail, there's just something special about wandering in this game. It's also visually different compared to any Fallout game. As you've seen us go through all these games, whether it be Fallout 1, 2, 3, New Vegas, you've noticed a different color palette for each, a different tone set for each. Fallout 4 is much more colorful and uplifting visually. That's by design. That's because Fallout 4's theme is about rebuilding the wastes, perhaps to a fault. Yes, this is where they introduce the settlement building system, which, oh man, I remember my initial hype for this. The idea of welcoming in settlers and getting unique quests from them and unique items from them. I had no idea that I'd be getting told by Preston Garvey every 5 seconds to go save another settlement, but I digress. I got him to say that on a podcast one time, by the way. You can go listen to that. I did a whole entire panel for a Fallout 4 reunion on my Mr. Matty channel. It's one of the few live videos that is archived there, so if you ever want to check that out. So I did get Preston Garvey to break out the mark another settlement on your map quote.
I feel like after the year that we've all just been through, we all realize another settlement does need our help. And I will mark it on your map.
There we go. But point being, yeah, they got carried away with the settlement mode building here. They got carried away with the crafting here. And all these specific things they focused on, the voice protagonist, the crafting, the recycled content, the procedural content, it just took away from the spirit of what makes a Fallout game a Fallout game. It had its funny moments, specifically the sarcastic dialogue options I always love. You just can't not pick them, especially with Brian T. Delaney. His delivery was fantastic. Same with Courtney Taylor. Delivery was fantastic. Like, the actors and actresses they picked for Fallout 4 were never a problem. It was just that they voiced the main roles of the game. But the companions were a major step forward. Characters like Kate, Piper, McCready, and of course, the favorite, Nick Valentine. All fantastic. But there were critiques, right? This wasn't a role-playing game enough. Even though the shooting was improved, we wanted more ability to talk our way through things, skill check our way through things. And in comes the answer to our prayers, Fallout 4's Far Harbor expansion, where there were 3 endings, there were skill checks everywhere. Oh my God, what a breath of fresh air. They had a wonderful quest line rooted in protectrons and a murder mystery within a vault. I mean, what a great expansion. Some of Bethesda's best work ever, and such a phenomenal clapback. It just felt like Bethesda was reminding us, like, hey, we can still do this, by the way, because then they did Nuka World, which was more shooting gallery stuff. It was still great, but it was more shooting gallery stuff and answering the other problem with the game, which was, hey, we kind of want to be a bad guy, and we can't be a bad guy in this game. We can only be nice and sarcastic, and so what Fallout 4 did was said, okay, well, what if we let you start being a raider to all the settlements? And that was an okay answer, but you still can't really be evil in Fallout 4. And when you look at what you can do in like Fallout 3, you know, blowing up an entire town, major departure for sure on a morality level. Anyway, let's check out a complete in-box copy of Fallout 4. And yeah, I was kidding. We'll talk about 76. Last but not least, Steelbook for Fallout 4. If you couldn't tell by what I've been wearing in this video, yeah, kind of pre-ordered the collector's edition. Anyway, let's take a look at the inside where you have the Fallout 4 disc. I've never really liked the disc art for this game. A vault door, like something about it that throws it off for me. I don't know. But anyway, you can see the garage is actually in the background here of the Steelbook, which is a nice little touch. You have, like I said, the season pass here, which I remember Bethesda announced. And what was funny about it is when they announced it, no one knew what the DLC was going to be. Nowadays, common. Back then, that was kind of new and sketchy. But here you have Doom, Dishonored 2, another fantastic game. Tamriel Unlimited, this was like a bounce back for that game. Wonderful stuff there. You have the Vault Dwellers survival guide here. Yep, again, Fallout 3-itis, just one little pamphlet. But what's actually pretty cool is you have this little poster here, which can expand, and it's the perk chart that you see in Fallout 4 whenever you level up, except you can actually hang this up on your wall. Considered using this for the Retro Rebound backdrop, but it didn't feel quite old school enough. Anyway, that is your complete in-box copy for Fallout 4, and with that, let's talk about Fallout 76. I'm not firing it up on the CRT. I'm not ruining my television like that. Oh my God. I have tried to love Fallout 76 so many times. There is no excusing the launch, but it's a live service product. Let's talk about it how it is now. Wastelanders reintroduced NPCs into the Wasteland. And the Appalachia was always a nice world to explore. It was actually one of the most visually diverse and interesting locations we've had in the Fallout franchise. It still had that step out moment in Fallout 76. It still had that sense of wandering and exploring that was enjoyable in 76. It's just for the majority of its lifespan, you were chasing ghosts. Now with NPCs there, filling out old locations, adding lore to it all, and quest lines to boot, the game has massively improved, but its support has always been spotty. Here in this year, 2023, it's been dead silent from the team on Fallout 76, just rolling out new cosmetics and seasons and battle passes, you know, the stuff that prints money while they work on Atlantic City, which I don't know how that's gonna go, but I'm a sucker for this series, so guess who will be there day one? That's right, me. But from things like expeditions in the Pit, where I was excited. The Pit is one of my favorite DLCs in the entire Fallout franchise. What could they offer here in Fallout 76 with a little spin on it? What nostalgia twist could they do? Because 76 is closer to the beginning of the Fallout timeline. Oh boy, nope. It was a short mission. The AI was still broken in combat. There wasn't much story there. Not that it was marketed to be that way, but you were hoping for a little bit more. It just felt like such a missed opportunity. Like, oh, we finally get to leave Appalachia and it's over. It just is a game that continued to disappoint. However, Nuka World on Tour rolls around. 011 joins the team for Bethesda Game Studios and starts helping support the game. And suddenly, it feels like there's a whisper of life to it all. It's a game that gives you that tonal whiplash in a whole other way, because now you're like, oh, it's there. Nope. Oh, are we there yet? Nope, not quite yet. Fallout 76 is a game that I would love nothing more than to be a total fanboy of, because I love Fallout so much and I need my fix on like a monthly occasion that I'll just dive back into 3, New Vegas 4, whatever the flavor of the month is. But 76 speaks my language. Like, oh, I want a Fallout fix, let me play the new live game there. But that's the biggest betrayal of it all. Fallout should always and forever, even with all the changes that were brought into Fallout 4, be a single player series. And that's what Fallout 76 stepped away from. It had a great idea on paper. What if every single NPC, if you will, you encountered, was actually not an NPC, but another player? But then they had trouble with the survival mode and the balance with that. They had trouble with players killing each other and spawn killing. I had videos of me getting spawn killed in 76 a ton. There was just problem after problem, and it was a experiment that I get they were going for, and it could have been cool, but what would have been better is just a co-op expansion in Fallout 4 and nothing more. But this was the product of an era in Bethesda Game Studios that had to put out live service. It's where you saw Wolfenstein Youngblood. We saw the last of it, hopefully, with Redfall. These developers within ZeniMax all had to produce a live service game, and 76 was Bethesda Game Studios' best effort, and it was their worst game ever. Starfield is a magnificent bounce back in comparison, but that's for another video. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this retrospective of the entire Fallout franchise. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Fallout down below. And with that, take great care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.